Good evening. This is the Monday, October 7th, 2024 workshop meeting, the Township Committee. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times and by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk, all on January 11th, 2024. Committeeman Clark.
Here.
Committeewoman Kratz.
Here.
Committeeman Sedembrino.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Here.
Mayor Perry.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor the troops serving worldwide, defending our constitutions, freedoms, and way of life. First item on tonight's agenda, we have presentations and proclamations. At this time, we're going to do a presentation recognizing the Middletown Little League Intermediate All-Stars. I'd like to invite Division Coordinator Tim St. Clair, coaches Michael Mazzola, Robert Shapson, and John Macchio, and the players to join Mayor Perry at the front of the room.
Oh, yeah, we gotta do it back. Perfect. All right. Let's give it up for our champions, right? I keep saying it, meeting after meeting after meeting, we are joined at each meeting by a different group of athletes, a different group of students that are putting Middletown not on the map, they are putting them on the winning track and a map of distinction and honor. And our All-Stars here deserve a lot of credit for, this is the second meeting in a row now. We've had champs come in, and this is our Middletown Little League Intermediate All-Stars. They're All-Stars, but more importantly, they're champions. District 19 and Section 30 Little League champions. Let's give it up for these guys. And I'll tell you, it is absolutely a perfect time to talk and honor baseball champs as we are, what did the Yanks play at 7 o'clock tonight? 7:08? They're on right now? Yeah, 7 o'clock, yeah. So you're like, he's like, yeah, hustle it up. You know. Judges do up third. But once again, you know, we're sitting here at Town Hall, and I talk about it often, is the will and determination of a group of young people is the most incredible force of nature, because when you are determined to do something, determined to be a champion, it's not just a mental thing. It is a determination, a group effort where you're all working together. Every single pitch, every single ground ball, every fly out, every run that crosses that board is yet another part of the puzzle, another part of the process in becoming a champion. That's what you all have demonstrated. And not only have you done that, but you have represented Middletown and again, as I said earlier, put us on the map, not just in terms of baseball success, but in terms of championship success. So you all deserve a lot of credit. The one thing I want you to do though, because you get the banners and you get the certificates and you get all that good stuff, I want you to turn and thank your coaches, and I want to turn and thank your parents because they deserve a lot of the credit for your success as well. Now. All right, now look out at your parents. All right, okay. Like,
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
There you go. Prize for most outspoken here.
Definitely best dressed mayor.
I'll tell you, all slacks, the rules were on for this meeting. I love it. Coaches, anybody want to talk about the team real fast?
I'll give you a quick, thank you for recognizing them for their accomplishments. We've had the honor of coaching them for the past 4 years. In 2021, they made the finals, the district finals against Freehold. It was a tough loss for them. They came back last year, made the finals against Lincroft, made another tough loss. They all came back for 2024 with the goal of winning and bringing home the district banner. They beat Lincroft 3-1, beat Freehold 5-0, and then Freehold again in the final at home to bring it home. And then they headed off to Princeton, 3 straight there, Jackson, Hamilton, came back home, lost their first game, South Vineland, who was eventually state champs. That game could have gone differently. Dylan, I think you're still safe in the 3rd inning. That's the difference in the game really for us, but then went on, eliminated Bergenfield, eliminated Nutley, eventually lost to South Vineland again, but finished 2nd in the states. We appreciate you, acknowledging what they did, and thank you for having us.
Well, we appreciate, Middletown appreciates what you do, coaches, what you do, parents, and we certainly appreciate very much what you're doing as athletes, as students, and as young leaders in our town. So let's give it up for our champion. All right. Now, okay, so next to the tallest guy here. So now by yourself, you are gonna have to turn to your coaches and say thank you. There you go, all right. Let's get in here with the banner real fast. We have certificates for everybody, and it says this: the Township of Middletown congratulates Middletown Little League Intermediate All-Stars on winning the 2024 New Jersey District 19 and Section 3 Little League Championships. Over the summer, you and your teammates completed an impressive season, having won 2 different championships and ranking in 2nd place in the state tournament. As a result, you were also able to reap the benefits of your dedication, teamwork, and desire to succeed. We are proud of you, Middletown is proud of you, and the accomplishments that you have achieved this year. Keep up the fantastic work, all right? So congratulations, guys. Let's get a picture with this banner and let's celebrate this championship, all right?
First pitch, 7:30.
7:38. First pitch, Yankees, 7:38. All right, good. 7:38. All right, ready?
You guys having a chant or something? No.
No, you're strictly business, right?
All right. 1, 2, 3. Great. Congratulations. And now you can hold that pose for your parents right now. I'll go. Somebody's
Smile. Cheese is good. Self-coach. I mean, I think we're close up one like I used to. Okay.
So we'll post some very sweet. I want to their newsletter, which comes out every.
Turn around.
If you want.
The coaches and I are here running out of oxygen. We're sucking it in. I know these young guys don't have to worry about it. All right, let's give our champs another round of applause. You got it, guys. Congratulations. Keep up the good work, all right? Congratulations. 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 Thank you.
Thank you. I know the market.
Okay. This is. Oh. So you came in late, but you get the first certificate. There you go. There you go. Congratulations. All right. All right. See you guys.
Congratulations.
Spell on the ground.
I was impressed. I thought they were staying. The only relief is there's no one left in the room. There's no one happy pickleball players. There's no. There's a water here, Mayor Perry, if you want water.
Thank you. Jim and Don deserve a round of applause. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
All right.
you ready to
Yeah.
continue? Okay,
All
next.
right, Karen.
Next, we have two proclamations for the record. The first proclamation recognizing October 2024 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the Township of Middletown, and proclamation recognizing October 2024 as Substance Use Prevention Month in the Township of Middletown. Excuse me. Next item on tonight's agenda, we have public hearing of proposed ordinances. First ordinance 2024-3432, an ordinance authorizing the granting of a deed of dedication and perpetual mitigation area easement on portions of the township-owned property described as Block 121, Lot 1, and Block 276, Lot 48, pursuant to the Raritan Bay and Sandy Hook Bay Hurricane and Storm Damage Reduction Project, Port Monmouth, New Jersey, Phase 2, Contract 1.
Motion, any member of the public wishing to speak on public ordinance number 2024-3432? Don? I'm assuming Jim's got nothing to say. Seeing no member of the public stepping forward, move to close the public portion and approve.
Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeewoman Kratz.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to approve this ordinance on second and final reading. The next ordinance for public hearing, we have 2024-3433, an ordinance authorizing and accepting deed of open space easement from County of Monmouth for Normandy Park, Block 901, Lot 3.
Any member of the public wishing to speak on public ordinance number 2024-3433? Don's saying no. Seeing no member of the public stepping forward, move to close the public portion and approve.
Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeewoman Kratz.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to approve this ordinance on second and final reading. Next item on the agenda, we have the introduction of proposed ordinances. 2024-3434, an ordinance providing funding for acquisition of property for the Township of Middletown and appropriating $2,100,000 for such purposes.
Motion to introduce.
Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeewoman Kratz.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt this ordinance on first reading, public hearing to be held on October 21st, 2024. Next, we have Ordinance 2024-3435, an ordinance authorizing entry of purchase and sale agreement with the Richard J. Stavola Family Trust for the acquisition of Block 1030, Lot 7 and 10, 127 Hubbard Avenue for open space preservation purposes.
Motion to introduce. Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeewoman Kratz.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Recuse.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on first reading with public hearing to be held on October 21st, 2024, with recusal noted. Next item we have, I'm going to ask the committee to adopt a consent agenda, which would include resolutions 24-265 through 24-276.
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeewoman Kratz.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to approve consent agenda. Next item, we have our discussion items. First item we have is amending the preschool and camp fees.
Yeah,
Owen?
actually, you have two items listed here. They're really the same thing. But you were given a report, and Janet Dellett sent a report. We do this every 2 years or so. We update our camp fees and preschool fees. It's pretty detailed as to what their nominal increases. So we probably will have an ordinance ready for you on the 21st. If between now and then anyone has any questions about any of that, or if you do tonight, certainly can answer them. But we typically do this every other year to keep our fees current.
Okay, any questions for Tony? Okay. Number 23?
So the next is stormwater control, salt, and tree ordinance amendments.
Yeah, so these are a little bit more complicated, but and I gave these to you guys last week. There are 3 ordinances that we're required to now have in place by the state of New Jersey, having to do with overall our stormwater management compliance. And this is almost every municipality in New Jersey has to adopt these ordinances and have them in place. 2 of the 3 are fairly routine. One is a new requirement that regulates how private businesses and homeowners store salt. So you can imagine many private businesses in town, typically they're landscapers, some of the pool companies, they, in their winters, when they're not doing other work, they plow snow. So many of them store salt. Many of them have contracts with shopping centers and big parking lots. And that's how they get plowed so quickly. So they store salt. Now there are specific rules about how to store that salt. We as the township have always had to store it in a protected sort of way, but there were never any rules about private businesses. And I think most probably do it properly, at least to some degree. Now they're required to be covered, enclosed, so that they can't blow in the wind. They can't wash away in rain. They can't be within 50 feet of any kind of body of water, stream or creek or anything like that. So there's specific rules. And this also does apply to homeowners. So if you happen to be one of those rare homeowners who stores salt, probably not a lot of them, but this would actually apply to you. So the issue becomes for the township is we have some level of enforcement over this. So we have to, and all of these things add to the workload of the township with no reimbursement for the costs that we incur. This one will not be that significant. We would just have to go by the facilities that store salt and make sure they're doing it in conformance with the new law. The second one has to do with stormwater management. This is a lot more detail and in the weeds. This has to do with how new developments are designed by design engineers. And as some of you know who deal with development, stormwater management is a big part of any project design. So the state has adopted some broader standards that all municipalities have to abide by. So most of these you'll see become effective with applications before the planning and zoning boards. The applicants will be required to design their plans in accordance with the new regulations. And likewise, the board engineers will be required to review and make sure that they're being designed in compliance with the new regulations. So it's a lot of detail. Typically, day to day, it wouldn't affect us unless we were doing a major park renovation or park redevelopment, for example. It would have applied to this building, obviously, if we had built it after these regulations went into effect. And they just are stricter stormwater management rules. And the primary idea is to enhance and promote water quality control so that stormwater is treated more so than it is now before it gets into the streams and groundwater. So again, nothing too controversial and not too much of a burden on us because we already review plans for those purposes anyway. It's just slightly enhanced standards. The third one is a lot more complicated. The state requires that all municipalities have a tree protection ordinance, if you will. Now, in New Jersey, there are municipalities that have had tree regulations in place for some time. They typically tend to be small communities that have, defined areas of street trees, small amounts of open space. But now this is really getting into, essentially what you do in your backyard.
I was going to ask you, this extends to private property, right?
This is,
Yes.
it absolutely applies to private property. And that's where it becomes difficult. And this is the ordinance that has given us the most, I don't know if you noticed in the one I sent you, it said version 10. This is our 10th version of this. And, could it be different? Probably. But essentially what it does is says that every tree removal has to be essentially requested to the township. So somebody has to contact us to say they're going to remove a tree. So the way it works is there are certain things that are going to be exempt. For example, if you have a damaged tree, it was hit by lightning or it's got a major limb falling off of it. But you have to let us know because we now have to send somebody there to essentially certify or agree that the tree needs to be removed. It also, if a tree is diseased, if a tree is an invasive species like Atlantis trees, they're exempt, and certain other species would be exempt. But for the most part, if you want to remove trees from your property, you have to notify the township. Now, what the law does allow, and what we've included in this ordinance, is for single-family homeowners, you can remove up to 3 per year without having to replace. The whole idea here is that they want trees that are removed to be replaced with another tree. So if you remove 5 trees on your property, you're supposed to plant 5 trees on your property. The issue with that, of course, is there are some properties that are small and really would find it difficult to find room to plant 5 trees on their property. What the law requires now is that you pay an in lieu fee. Instead of planting that tree on your property, you have to pay a fee to the township. The township will have to put that money into, and this is much to Colleen's chagrin, this is a rare case where they let us do a trust account. She's very strict with trust accounts, believe me, I've tried. But this is one area where you have a trust account, so this money will go into this account and to be used for 2 purposes. One is to pay for our costs in administering this program, which will be substantial, and I'll get to those in a minute. But the other is we can create a fund of our own that if we want to do a tree planting project somewhere, we would have the funds to do it, which is fine.
Which this whole thing just makes me laugh, by the way, because we sit here and we are forced to deal with the high density housing quotas that were given by the state of New Jersey. And at no point in time do they ever want you to redevelop a property. They just want you to demolish and take down a undeveloped piece of property where there is wetlands and species living and trees that have been there for hundreds of years. And that is okay. And yet now where there is development or a house sitting on a property, we now have to go and pay for and hire someone that's going to go out there and inspect and be certified as to whether or not somebody can take down a tree.
That's right. One of the requirements here is that these decisions have to get made by a certified tree expert. And that can be somebody there's a specific certification in New Jersey as a certified tree expert, CTE, another acronym, or a certified arborist. So we are going to have to contract with, I think, at least 2, maybe 3 arborists and this is probably going to be on our next round of professional appointments that we're going to have to be seeking. We're going to have these arborists available to go out and make these calls, because a homeowner can call and say, well, yeah, I have this tree and it, I really want to take it down. And you know what? It's diseased anyway. And I don't want to have to do a replacement or pay a fee. We now have to send somebody to that property to determine that they're telling us the truth.
The state statute currently?
Well, it's a state law that, because in typical New Jersey fashion, they pass the buck to the municipalities to implement their law. So we are the ones that have to, there's parameters that we have to follow, but then there is leeway that is provided to us in terms of defining the width of a tree and so on and so forth as to what we would, in terms of what we would require. And yet it's $0 coming to the municipalities to implement this program.
Yeah, one of the things we're going to have
So
to
the
do.
taxpayers of, I'm sorry, Tony. So the taxpayers of Middletown are now going to have to pay for what 40 members of the Senate said, what 80 members of the General Assembly said, and what the governor said should be tax dollars being spent from the municipality side.
Yeah, it really, my viewpoint, it's a big time overreach for government, but that's neither here nor there. We have to deal with the hand we're dealt. And so yes, we will have to send a certified arborist to properties to verify that what someone's asking us is accurate. So it literally, and even the fact that we exempt the first 3 trees. So let's say you want to take 3 trees down on your property, you don't have to do anything, replace or pay for those trees. But we have to have
A call.
we have to be able to keep a record.
Right.
We have to know now whether you've taken, so we're going to be hiring a deputy zoning officer, part-time position, which all these just think about Middletown, the size of it, how many trees must come down in a year. We're going to have a person who's pretty much going to be dedicated to taking in these applications, keeping track of all the properties and who has removed trees. It gets to be absurd the more and more you think about it. So we're trying to do it in this least impactful way as possible, but we do have to do this.
So not only is that person going to have to process all of the people that are doing it the right way, but they're also going to have to deal with all of the nuisance responses, right? When
Yeah.
you have a neighbor who says, oh, my neighbor cut down 3 trees and I don't think they got permission, they're going to have to go out there and deal with that.
Absolutely.
On top of
That
everything
is a big part of this. And it may be the hidden nightmare in all of this, is that you could get complainers who can now go crazy. Like I said, every time they hear a chainsaw start up, they're going to get in their car and try to figure out where it is. There are people who think that way. So we have to respond to those.
Exactly. It's not even just the applications to do it. It's now the code enforcement that's now going to be required to go out there because I heard a chainsaw going and I want to know whether or not they got it. And now Karen and Heidi and the clerk's office is going to have to get all the Oprah requests for all those things. That's going to have to go to Nelson, and then Brian's going to have to review them so that we can go back and say, yep, here's the permit that they took out.
So we got to have tree police.
That's exactly what
Yep.
it is.
You're now the captain,
We're
Kev.
not giving out, the CTEs, we don't have to give them the cars with lights and sirens.
That might be next.
Yeah.
They might have to wear armor in
Yeah.
some cases. They're not going to be popular people. I'm telling you that they're not.
Yeah.
That's why I want to get consultants to do it. I don't want to hire anybody to do it. I don't want to subject any employee to that. But anyway, it's going to be a burden. We'll have to see how it goes. I think there's going to be a lot of pushback. There is already a lot of pushback from municipalities throughout the state. Like I said, a lot of small towns have always done this, and it's not a big deal for them. It's a little stricter now because now you got to pay the blue. That was never really a law. Now it is. But for towns of a substantial size, like Middletowns and Cherry Hills and Hamiltons and places like that, it's an almost impossible burden to take on and not have it cost you a fortune.
And by the way, I just want to say this too. When we asked our landscape architect, Vic Wimes, to give us a cost estimate as to what he thought each price should be based on the current market for the certain size trees, you take down this, you have to replace it with this, And that's, if you don't, this is what you're gonna have to pay to the town.
He would charge?
Yeah, like, you cut down a tree
Yeah.
and now you're on your fourth tree.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, like
You now have to pay, if you take down a tree that is, let's say, 24 inches wide, you have to pay, what was it, $1,800 or something like that, Tone?
It's substantial, yeah.
To pay to the town to do that. So at a time when people are paying more at the supermarket, more at all these different, in order to take down a tree because you want to put a playground in your backyard, you want to put a pool in your backyard, whatever the case may be, you are now going to have to pay this lieu of a replanting of a tree.
Yeah.
So at what point do we sit here and say that we're fighting to make it more affordable when if you have to replant a tree or make a payment with it, that $1,800 for a 24-inch tree is appropriate? I just,
It's crazy. With this will have a big impact on new development for sure. And rightly so, we should collect fees from
Totally.
those types of developments. But think about that though, even that point, the state, all we hear now on the news and the newspapers is housing affordability. All 50 states are dealing with that issue. This is only going to raise the price of housing in general anyway, because the cost of development is going to be more. And I mean, Kevin, you know this is more than most, and Rick, you do development. I mean, you know that this is going to get factored into the price of houses.
I mean, DEP has long had some type of tree save requirement, but that was on their properties. That was on state
Yeah.
Right.
properties, right?
Yeah.
It never did extend to private property.
No.
Right.
That was up to each municipality to whether or not they wanted to get that designation and have a shade tree commission and things of that nature, where you were going, and to Tony's point, that was always in the small towns that, you could handle that type of constant application process. But when you're talking about a 42 square mile town,
With lots of trees.
yeah. And not only that, but let's just also talk about, now you've added another layer of government to putting on an addition or a pool and how many calls do all of you field from people and say, hey, I'm submitting this application, just, I'm being told by my builder that it's been in for 12 weeks and nobody has said a word. In reality, it's been in for 3 hours, because, and how more backed up is the construction going to get because of that? Because now you're waiting on another permit to do everything.
Yeah, because now, for example, a good example is after every storm, we get a lot of calls from people saying, I have this tree and there's a limb kind of hanging over the roof of my house. I really think it's kind of risky to have it there. I'd like to remove the tree. Well, now someone has to go out and say, well, you know what? It's not really at risk
Right.
of coming down.
What due process do you have?
Whose risk, whose level of risk
Yeah.
do you, it trumps whose?
Let me ask you a follow-up question with regard to that. If your homeowner, you say, hey, I want to take this tree down, we send out a CTE, and he says, you know what? No, it's not going to come down. It falls the next week and
Yeah.
next month and next day. Do we have liability for that?
Well, I mean, that's a good Brian question, but I mean, that's why they're certified. You should be getting a pretty accurate answer.
Regardless of whether we be liable, we're gonna get sued.
Yeah, we're gonna get sued no matter what.
Tony, what about the follow-up process for the planted tree? Right? So somebody plants their tree instead of paying the $1,800
Yeah.
and the tree doesn't make it after 6 months.
Oh, well, that's a great question, because the answer is we have to go and make sure the tree survives.
Right. So our tree police that are already taking the nuisance phone calls and going out and doing their normal job
Yeah.
now have to go out and do a yearly inspection on the tree. And what's the statute of limitations on that inspection
I think
before it's
I
considered a
think
viable?
It may be 1 or 2 years that it has to survive. And I think beyond that, we don't have to respond to it. Inspect it. But yeah, it's just another part of this. It's really, really burdensome on the town. It's burdensome on residents, I think, because you're really getting into their business, I think. It's a little different if it's in wetlands. Okay, that might be different. There's already rules about that. But when you're starting to make a call as to whether or not a tree is hazardous or not, that really can get kind of subjective, depending on your sensitivity towards hazards. And so like I said, those people who have to go out and do those inspections, make those calls, they're not going to be popular. They're either not going to be popular with the homeowner or the neighbor who called and have them sent there. Somebody's going to be annoyed at whatever decision they make. So anyway, unfortunately, we do have to adopt this. This is what I've given you is a draft. We have to work a lot with Brian to tighten these up a little bit because these were model ordinances that the state provided that we've made a lot of changes to, especially the tree one. So we'll be working with Brian over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll be able to introduce on the 21st. But I just wanted to let you know it's coming. I think it's a bad idea. I think it's bad policy for the state to be doing something like this to this extent. We want to protect trees. Great. I think we should do that. But this is draconian in a lot of ways, in my viewpoint. But we have to do it. We're trying to do it in as least impactful a way as possible for homeowners. We've started at 24-inch trees. You could start at a 6-inch tree if under the state model ordinance. That would be absolutely absurd in Middletown, the number of 6-inch diameter trees that we would have. So we're starting it at 24 inches. So it's a little bit more substantial tree. So hopefully that'll somewhat lessen the burden. But again, given our size and the amount of vegetation we have, it's going to be a lot.
And any trees less than 24 inches in caliper size, you don't have to, or not regulated.
Except the only exception is street trees. As you know, when being on the planning board, we require street trees for developments. Those are different. I think those are 3 inches. Then they're regulated because they were required by a local body. So we want to make sure that those are maintained. But yeah, normal trees on your own property, we're starting at 24 inches.
Who's responsible for measuring and tagging? Like, let's just say it's a large swath of property,
Yeah.
a big development.
They are now. They're going to be required to identify every tree, I believe, over 6 inches. But the ones over 24 inches, they will have to pay a fee for to remove unless they can replace them on site. And again, when you replace on site, you're not replacing with a 24-inch tree. You're replacing it with a 2-3-inch tree. So it's going to take 15 years.
50
before that
years.
birch tree is meaningful. But some of those things, when they're before the planning board, I think the planning boards have a little bit more discretion to negotiate things with developers and that sort of thing. So that's probably not going to be too big of a burden. But will it add to the price of housing when you're building housing development? Absolutely. It will definitely do that.
Only just a quick question on
Yeah.
salt storage, that requires a permit as well?
It doesn't require a permit. It just requires that they follow these standards. So we're going to, once we have this ordinance in place, we're going to send this out to all the businesses that we know that have storage on salt storage on site and say, hey, these are some new rules that you have to comply with.
And then who's going to inspect?
Again, we will have to, monitor them like once a year, drive by, make sure they're doing the things properly. Or if we get a complaint, maybe more often than that. I don't think that one's going to be too bad. I think most businesses will find a way. It can be covered with a tarp with as long as you have weight on it so it can't blow off of it. So it's not too difficult. I would imagine most places already do something along these lines. So I don't think it'll be too bad for businesses. But the tree one is going to be the biggest impact on our staffing. We literally have to hire people that we've never had before just to implement this. And that, to me, that's something the state ought to be paying for.
Okay. Any other questions
So
for Tony?
between now and next week, if there's any further questions, just, call me or email me and then when we go over with Brian, we'll try to address them.
Any other questions for Tony? Okay. Township Committee comments, Committeeman Clark,
I'm good. Thank you.
Committeeman Senabrino,
No comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Committeewoman Kratz,
None for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Same for me, Mayor.
All right.
Bunch of Yankee fans here.
Yes. And I can tell you, it is the bottom of the first, so no score. Don, any member of the public wishing to make a public comment? Okay. Come on up, Don.
We can't pay you enough to say something. Good evening. My name's Don Watson, living at 1 Collinson Drive. Can you hear me okay? Because I almost shouted out a few times. Many of you are not using your microphones or you're not close enough and it's kind of hard to hear. Voices coming out of the speakers. To continue this conversation, I have a coworker that lives up on Oak Hill, and she's always complaining about people cutting down trees. She's saying all these people move into the neighborhoods, and the first thing they do is cut down trees, big trees. And they have tree people come in and tell these new residents, I guess who she says they have never seen a tree, telling them that the trees need to come down because they're decayed or whatever. And she showed me pictures of big trees without a mark through the middle of them, you know. So the tree guys are out there to cut trees down, you know, and if you introduce notification to them, maybe they'll think twice about that.
Yeah, because we will have a certified person go out to make a determination whether.
Right,
the tree has come down.
before.
We're going to tell them, you know, you're a licensed person, you've got to protect your license.
Mhm.
Give us the an accurate answer.
Yeah, now she's telling me that where they cut the trees down, well, the yard's out in the street now because it rains and it all washes out into the street. There's nothing to hold the dirt in place because they cut the trees down.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us up here, just to be clear.
Are you sure?
What does that mean?
That
I
you-
don't think any of, I didn't say anything other than, I don't think any of us up here. None of us up here are, I mean, by virtue of the introduction of the ordinance today, and just as a side note, is wants to see swaths of trees go down. In fact, that's
Right.
exactly why we're in the midst of multiple pieces of builders' remedy suits. So to say that any of us, or to insinuate that any of us up here want to see trees come down is simply not true. What I don't like.
I'm glad nobody has said that.
Well, no one said it, but I can sense it. Is that what I don't like is you are now layering another piece of government bureaucracy.
Well, I'm not.
On
Not Don personally.
not Don, but the Trenton is the big gold dome.
Right.
Is once again layering another piece of bureaucracy on to the taxpayers.
Right.
And when people, you know, it's great to say that we're investing money into our parks. It's great to say that we're saving pieces of land because people can see that. It's tangible for them.
Right.
The public doesn't care that you need to go out and spend thousands of dollars on a consultant because Trenton said we need to inspect trees and decide whether or not they're decaying or not. That's not, that the public cannot utilize that. The public cannot go to someone's property and say, well, we really should have taken that tree down, or you shouldn't have allowed that tree to go down. And it's just another unfunded mandate. It's another unfunded
If
mandate.
the state did this on a state level, it would still have to be done, correct?
Yeah, but they
Only
have
on
to
a
pay
state
for it.
level.
Yeah, but they had to pay for it.
And the state would pay for it, which is us anyway, correct?
Yeah.
Aren't we the
It's not our
state?
budget directly, though, you know.
It's not
This
within
will-
your
this will
budget,
affect our
right?
budget directly.
I understand all
Yeah.
that. But getting on to the, how long do you wait for the trees to die? Like places like Home Depot give you 1 year. You got 1 year. If the tree dies, you replace it. They replace it for free.
Yeah, typically, like with things that go to the planning boards, it's 3 years of maintenance. They
Oh, yeah?
have to require that the tree stays alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just remembered that when you said, well, how long do we have to wait? I said, well, Home Depot only waits 1 year, you know? And I'm sure many other places do the same. Now with the salt, you were saying the salt has to be covered and so it don't wash away and all that jibba jabba. Does that apply to like the stuff that's not salt, the ice melt?
It's anything that, any de-icing agent.
De-icing agent?
Yes.
All right.
Shouldn't have said salt. You're right. It's
Yeah.
de-icing agents, yeah.
Pouring salt on the wounds. All right, I was just curious about that because some people don't use salt.
Right. It's
You know,
not
but they
technically
got
salt
piles of
anymore.
this stuff
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
when, you know, once it, what's that? Something calcite or something.
Yeah.
When it gets wet, it just turns into a big block.
It's kind of like all copies that are made are Xeroxes. It's
Yeah,
the same thing,
right.
You-
Back in the day, or the fax
A
machine.
what?
Well, people use
No,
the term
I'm
Xerox
gonna-
for any copy that gets made.
Yep.
Go ahead,
You
Don.
can read about that in the
Yeah,
history books.
I'll look it up on Wikipedia.
Yeah, right. Hopefully it'll be true. Yes. I think that's all I got. I just wanted to make a few points and I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Got it, Don. Thank you.
60 minutes comes on any minute now.
Okay. All right. Any member of the public who, any member of the public wish to make a public comment? Seeing no member of the public stepping forward, move to close the public portion and adjourn.
Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeewoman Kratz.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hyrule.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to adjourn.
Don, have a great night.